Happy long weekend to you this morning, which has me I got thinking about Labor Day and a public holiday that honors the contributions that workers have made towards the prosperity and the well-being of our country. And so I got looking into some things, and it tracked to the very beginning to April 15th, 1872, when the Toronto Trades Assembly organized Canada's first significant demonstration for workers' rights. And what they were going for is little by little more courage over the time and commitment to, they were looking for a basic hours in work week, 8 hours a day. They were looking for no work for children and basic safety. This is what this was all about in the very beginning. And so we set aside a time to honor the value and the dignity that is found in work, and the meaning and the boundaries and the blessings that occur in your life and mine because of work. And I recognize that for some on a long weekend, in the middle of it, hearing the word work just makes you a little tired and stressed with what you left on Friday that will greet you on Tuesday. Sorry to remind you of it. And for others, thinking of their work just fills them with a sense of satisfaction and a sense of well-being. And for others, there is a grieving over the work perhaps that was once done, that brought a lot of enjoyment into life. And today, work can mean whatever you do to earn your living, but it can also mean whatever you do that is as a volunteer. So Labor Day weekend is a day to acknowledge this opportunity, to acknowledge that we are dependent on each other. So I'd like you to talk for 30, 40 seconds with the person beside you, person you came with, or person nearby, or just reflect by yourself if you want to. But I would like you to think about this question. The question I have for you is, on whom did you depend to be here this morning? On whom did you depend to be here this morning? And think of more than what you can see, think of what you can't see. Talk with each other, and then we'll report back as a large group. Go to it. Okay, we'll start over here and work that way. So, on whom did you depend to be here this morning? What kinds of things came out in this group over here?
Alarm clock designer.
Alarm clock. 1, the designer. 2, the retailer. 3, the money you had because of your job to purchase the alarm clock. 4, well, okay, we'll stop there. Anyone else? Don't want to hog that one. Others, on whom did you depend? We'll come back over. On whom did you depend? Yep. Okay. The ability to wake up this morning, and now your body's created and designed. My car. Okay, so not just the car, but then the dollars you earned to buy the car, the manufacturer that created the car, the company that has it, the workers that placed it together on the assembly plant, the person that has the dealership in town here, and then the person that sold it to you, or if it was purchased from someone else. Sure. Okay. One more over here. Then we'll come this way.
The government for the rules of the road.
The rules of the road. So you could get in your car, so you could get here safely. There was a road built, so all the workers built the road. And all the people that passed the design at the city to make it happen.
Take the bridge.
The bridge. All the workers designed, the manufacturers who designed the parts for the bridge, the engineers who created the bridge, the workers who put the bridge over the thing, the taxpayer dollars that paid for the bridge, all of us together, okay? Okay, let's go this way. Yes?
People that came here early to set everything up.
Oh, the people that...
Asked her for being here.
Oh, okay, so my own alarm clock, right? Yes, and the people that put the lights on this morning. Yeah, thank you. And Jess up there, turn on all the technology, the people that created the technology, the people that thought of the technology, the engineers that designed the technology, right? What else have we got? The people that sold the technology, the people that went in their car or truck or van to pick up the technology that we have to place it in, the person who did the installation of it. Okay, great. The people that set up. It's chairs that you sit in. The manufacturer that created the chairs, the person that ordered the chairs. Yeah. What else? We'll go this way. Yep.
My cat.
And because?
Well, the other cat loves to just do this in the morning and by myself, so I don't need my alarm clock. And then God got me here.
Don't need an alarm clock because the cat woke you up. How'd you get the cat?
Through the adoption agency, Volcra.
So the people that ran the agency for you to be able to adopt the cat? Yes. The people that showed up to work to get the cat, the previous family that bought the cat. Okay. Over here, anything different? Or new? Well, of course, there's lots different. Anything different come to mind for you?
Oil and gas.
Oil and gas. Yes, I heard you say that.
Yeah, without that, there's no electric power.
There would be no electricity without the oil and the gas running that enabled that to happen. Creates the dams to
I
create.
think we depend on God who enabled all these people the ability to do all these things.
Okay, and God's work in it, and that's going to be the sermon for today. We're going to focus on that a little bit, and then how that plays into each one of us. So my point here is to talk about the interdependence, that if we stop for a moment and we see how interdependent the entire human family is and how it's designed to be that, to sustain all of us, it requires various vocations in a society to do the work. And so let's unpack that word vocation for a minute this morning. Vocation means calling. God calls each of us to different tasks, different offices and avenues for service. And 1 Corinthians says, let each person lead the life that the Lord has assigned to him and to which God has called him. So whatever situation you find yourself in that moment, you are called into that moment, into that situation. In his book by Gene Veith, God at Work, God at Work is the title, and Veith writes this. He writes, Martin Luther strongly connected vocation and the Christian life. It has to do with how we live in the world, exercise our faith, and it brings meaning and purpose to our lives. So when I asked you to consider the number of people that were involved in your being here this morning, I also mean your overall well-being. So that might require your physician who caught a condition some time ago that was corrected so that you could be here this morning. That might include your dentist. Probably a good number of us have been to the dentist when we were experiencing extreme pain. And if that dentist wasn't able to fix the source of that pain, who knows how that might have affected it. Maybe you go to the wellness over at H2O, and maybe it's the trainer that works with you, or it's weight training, or those sorts of things that give your body mobility and the very life that enables you to be here this morning. Vocation in the Christian sense has this quality of interconnectedness. Veith writes this. He says, we pray for daily bread, which comes to us through the vocation of farmers and millers and bakers. God protects us by means of governing authorities. God grants healing by means of medical vocations and creates works of beauty by working through artists and musicians. He creates new life and cares for children through mothers and fathers. God is at work in all the people who do things for us. The ones who built our houses, made our clothing, prepared our food, picked up our trash, designed the technology we enjoy, worked in the factories to manufacture what we need, gave us services to make our lives easier, and He is at work through us. You know, sometimes I watch people begrudge when they have to pay for something, as if what we have is ours to hoard, rather than thinking what we have is what we receive to be able to give back into the human family. So whether you need to pay for someone to come shovel your walk, cut your lawn, or fix something that you might once have been able to fix for yourself, or because of work right now don't have the time to fix, you are putting food on someone's table, paying their mortgage, paying their rent, helping them sustain life by the dollars that flow out of your pocket as well. Yet we don't always think of that responsibility we have towards the human family. We are simply conduits of what we receive to sustain life all around us. Luther goes on so far as to say that vocation is the mask of God. That behind the server in the restaurant who brings us our food, behind the shopkeeper, behind the business executive, and behind us in the things that we do for others, God is hidden. Luther writes, "What else is all our work to God, whether in fields or in the garden, in the city or in the house or in the government, but just a child's performance, by which he is to give his gifts in the fields, at home, and everywhere else? These are the masks of God, behind which he remains concealed and does all things. God gives all good gifts, but you must work and thus give God a mask." So this isn't just a weekend to celebrate our labor or time off and rest before the week ahead and school hits. It's opportunity to recognize and to celebrate that God's labor, God's work is manifested in our labor, in our work, whereby he cares for all creation, and God is at work and encourages us to participate. So regarding our calling, Luther says we have 3 vocations. And in these we find our meaning and our purpose. And the first vocation, the first calling, is the calling of the gospel. We're made part of the body of Christ, the church, to manifest the presence of Christ into the world around us. We talked about this all summer, right? The presence of Christ that shows up personally in us and then through us in community and then out into the world. Whether pastoring or serving, whether at the food bank or the gospel mission, whether visiting or encouraging or Bible study or music or meetings or taking part in church ministries, this is all one of our vocations, called each of us by the gospel. But sometimes being part of the church can be challenging. And what to do can be the question. Second calling. We're called into families. Luther called this the vocation of the household. What it takes to make a family work. Caregiving, nurturing, feeding. He says that even our means of making a living. Some Christian folks separate this out and they go, serving God, serving family, my work. Work, Luther actually puts into serving the family. That's why we have work, to sustain those who are entrusted to us. And some don't have families, but you have a family of origin that you were brought into the world through that family. And for Luther, he says that's why we work. But sometimes being part of a family can be challenging. And what to do can be the question. Thirdly, Luther says our third vocation is the calling into community. This is nation, culture, this is citizenship. To practice the common order of Christian love. Friendships, informal interactions, acts of service. This is volunteerism, right? But sometimes being part of a community is challenging. And what to do can be the question. The purposes of all these vocations, according to Luke 10:27, is to love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, body, and strength, and soul, and to love our neighbor. To do what Jesus invites us to do. And as I said, sometimes that's a challenge. And what to do can be the question. So in friendships, in marriages, in family, with kids, in the workplace, with co-workers, with bosses, with employees, with customers, all is in the guise of servanthood. And we recognize the Spirit of God is at work in us doing something unique. But that still doesn't take away the challenges. Because according to Mark 10:42, it says, "You know that those who are considered rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them. The greater ones exercise authority over them, but it shall not be so among you. Whoever would be great among you must be your servant." And that's quite counter to what happens in the broader human family, the world around us. And here's where our challenges lie. To serve without resenting, to rule without lording, to hold accountable with support. But often, rather than loving and serving, we despise, and we'd rather ourselves be served. That's in the human genes. We have the attitude of what's in it for me, and that manifests into a preoccupation with self. Maybe you're on the receiving end of someone else's self-preoccupation, and they didn't or they haven't treated you as Mark 10 would call them to. There's only one solution I know of that lifts our eyes beyond the self, and not only to see, but to be assured that the selflessness of God is at work in us, giving us strength to maneuver through the challenges that are before us. If you think for a minute, I bet you can come up with several times that you have done selfless acts. Celebrate these. For these are the power of God at work in you, in the family, in the community, in the church. For His Spirit is in you. For He did not come to be served, but to serve and give His life as a ransom for many. But also we live life, unfortunately, each of us, we get locked into something by which our sense of meaning or our purpose becomes confusing. And the waters get muddied, even when we can't see and we can't think clearly, and we need to be set free, to be ransomed. Maybe not physically, but maybe emotionally with our hearts, maybe in our minds, maybe in our soul. All these things that we know that aren't good for us, but we do anyway, we need to be ransomed from. You know, I get stuff removed from my face, right? Burned off. And for about 2 weeks, I vow I'm not going to go in the sun. And about 2 weeks later, I forget. And I'm in the sun because I like it. What about all the times we say, I'm sorry, and then we go and we do it again? What about all the times you know you're wasting watching Netflix or TV, and the next episode starts in 5 seconds, and you think I should stop now. But 5 seconds goes pretty quick. Number 2, and then pretty soon you're binging and it's number 3. And someone or something that needed attention, something should have been done, got left undone. What about concerns with health issues? But a person needs one more smoke. Concerned with health issues, but that chocolate donut looks so good. And that's just daily. And that's just personal imperfection, the easy stuff. Nothing to do with the deeper and the relational stuff with others. And that ransom that Christ came to be means our inability, the debt of our humanity, does not hold us back, but moves in each of us to move us forward. The times you've thought only of self and you resented the work or the boss or the coworker, when you messed up, when you couldn't seem to help yourself do better, when you didn't serve a customer well, when you shortchanged someone, when you were cranky, when you called in sick because you were just sick of working. That ransom, that tit for tat, that karma, whatever you call it, that getting what you deserve, that sin is absolved, not held against you. But Christ who serves also promises to be with you and to empower you where you fail, where you are less than to be more than. And this is where holiness happens. Not because we're holy, but God is in us, holy. And so holy moments happen. And somehow in all of it, you actually share your faith. In all the circumstances that arise, and all the challenges that you can't figure out on your own, you witness your trust and your dependence on God. And by His Spirit, you are a living sacrifice for the cause of Christ, which sounds to me like a calling, like a vocation. So happy Labor Day. Amen.